Welcome to another episode of Breaking Down Designs. This is a series where I take a look at characters from different franchises and try to describe and break down what the artists, designers, and animators wanted to convey with their choices when trying to display the character's personality and power fantasy. For this one, we have Bastion, Zenyatta, and Ramattra. I'm going to mostly ignore Zenyatta's classic design because his redesign had many changes made to it with Ramattra in mind, so they're connected in many ways because of that. I will cover a mix of Bastion's classic design as well as his redesign, as there are actual lore reasons for his redesign and it would make sense to go over them. Those reasons being that the Lindholm family redesigned his armor from his original state, as well as they gave him a little hat. I'll largely cover his classic design first, then go over the changes. Since some of these characters change forms or have multiple states they can enter, this video will be a bit longer than some of my other Overwatch ones. Starting with Sniper Smurf's main man, Bastion.
Hello, it's the Rubiness. It's nice to meet you, but it's even better to meet me. My name is Sniper Smurf. I have 290 hours with Bastion in total, and I specialize in sticking it straight up the fucking culo.
His name serves a double meaning. The word can be used as a name, but it's also the word to describe a fortified and protruding defensive position on the high point of a wall, much like how the word turret came from the part of a castle wall. Now we'll start with his color palette. Both of his color palettes do have one thing in common. If you squint, you can kinda see it. Both skins have a value gradient up to his face, so your attention is drawn to it. You can see this gradient really well in black and white. The casing on his head is also white with his new skin, so it's even more obvious. On the whole, in character design, an emphasis should be put to the face with some form of color contrast. The gradient should always go dark at the bottom of the character and then light at the top. If the character has a darker complexion, you can kind of do the opposite by giving them lighter clothing right before the face. So you could give them a brighter scarf or a brighter top.
Seriously, what's the plan?
Get the mask. Right behind you!
For real, what is the plan?
Bastion's primary color is made of a hue that sits between yellow and orange, but it's extremely desaturated. The secondary color is a nice foresty green, and his tertiary color is a somewhat rusted orange color. He does have a dark steel frame, and a nice light blue to accent his technology that acts as a complementary color to the orange in his scheme. Ganymede, his bird, is made up of Bastion's color palette, but at a far more saturated intensity, so they're two peas in a pod. His primary color, since it's basically a sand yellow, associates him with innocence and curiosity. The green connects him to nature and stability. These two main colors give off a bit more of a meek and grounded personality. The sight on his gun is a dark and desaturated red, so that contrasts there and it draws your attention to his gun just a bit, compared to the green in his scheme. Then the orange on him associates him with stubbornness and change, which his body does change form for some of his abilities, so that color helps convey that idea. The lightness and colors chosen for his two main colors tie him to a rather innocent but reliable character, but his rust color links him back to change and stubbornness, like he'd be curious to a fault. As well as rust is really only seen on metal, and wouldn't you know, Bastion is made of mostly metal. The lower value and saturation of that orange also doesn't come off as that energetic, compared to a character like Mauga or Tracer. Then we can look at his new color palette. On the whole, they wanted to convey a more yellow idea with his design. His palette became brighter and more saturated, so he comes off as a slightly more friendly and vibrant character. As a mostly stable trend within Overwatch's redesigns, the cast had their color palettes get far more saturated compared to the classic designs. The orange in his scheme became less common, and lots of white was introduced too. He also now has a little baseball cap that's a slightly desaturated blue with a pale gold gear on it. The blue contrasts with the orange found on some of him, which is found on his shoulder and on his hand now. One of his shoulders has a little gradient of light green to orange, with little decals on it painted on them to resemble bird feathers. Like he personally asked Brig or Torb to link him back to his little buddy, since Ganymede's been with him through thick and thin.
You appear to have a bird following you. Why? Interesting. Well, if I see any twigs, I will let you know.
They removed the red sight on his gun and turned it orange, taking some of the focus away from it because he likely no longer wants to draw attention to the aspects of himself that makes him a weapon of war. Instead, the artists added lime green to his gun though, so attention is still drawn there. Then we can look at the physical aspects of his design. He's basically all squares, except for a few circles which are found in his joints, but those are few and far between. He's built like a G1 transformer.
Rumble Frenzy, Ravage Rat-Bat, Inject, Operation Interference.
Within design, square shapes are seen as reliable, resilient, and stubborn in terms of movement and personality. Course corrections take a lot of time with square shapes. Think of it like a train. Once it gets going in one direction, it's pretty hard to stop. One of his arms is quite noticeably a gun, while the other isn't. His overall build has him quite different to many of the other Omnics found in the game and in the lore. Other Omnics look like they were designed with the idea that they would be interacting with people a lot, so their designs are more humanoid and friendly looking. Bastion looks like he was designed as a labor unit, like a Marvin.
Well done, pilot.
But since he has 2 large guns on him, we can assume that the job he was designed to do was to kill. So his design is either a retrofitted labor unit, or one designed from war from the get-go. His legs also kind of look like tank treads from the front when he walks. When it comes to his physical design too, he also has a really big gun on his back. And if you're familiar with firearms, you should be able to identify that the type of gun on the back there is like a minigun, in that it fires a rifle caliber cartridge and that it's not an artillery gun. Therefore, whatever Bastion shoots at has to be right in front of that gun, meaning Bastion somehow has to get into a position where that gun can shoot at something, unless he's shooting at things directly above him, which doesn't seem likely. So he has a couple of options to do that. He could go on all fours and try to aim like that, which doesn't really make sense since one of his hands is a gun that can't support his weight, as well as his other hand doesn't look like it has the same design language as his load-bearing feet. Another way is that he bends 90 degrees at his waist, which doesn't look practical at all, and I doubt anyone would ever do that. The final way is taking a look at his whole design. Since we know that his joints have circular shapes on them, and those can move around a lot, you can find a similar type of design at the base of the gun on his back. He also has a full circular ring around his waist that imposes no rotational limits on his movement. If you look at BT's waist from Titanfall, you can actually see that it has rotational limits. He can't rotate the full 360 degrees.
Power at full capacity. Pilot, we must establish a neural link in order to proceed. Please embark when ready.
Meaning, Bastion can move that area on his back like a limb. Therefore, Bastion can move parts of himself and reconfigure, also promoted with the orange in his design that I've mentioned before. Therefore, you could assume somehow that his body could undergo a transformation of sorts to get his big gun into position. And since that gun isn't at the ready all the time, you can assume that it has some kind of limitation within his playstyle. Like he needs to reconfigure to brace its weight or its recoil, or maybe that it has a time limit or energy resource meter that depletes over time for gameplay reasons. Bastion's feet also look like they were designed to withstand a lot of pressure and weight, like a bumper at the end of a railroad for a train. Then we can take a brief look at his redesign. Basically, every panel on him has been beveled and smoothed out, incorporating many more circular shapes to him, so he ends up looking far more friendly and organic. The minigun on his back also had some triangular and angular shapes added to the end of it. This shape contrast draws your attention to the barrel of his gun, meaning it's likely part of his playstyle. Another neat change is that the handle under his midsection also got removed. This handle may have actually been used to store or transport Bastion units during the Omnic crisis. His head also got ever so slightly bigger. Characters with bigger heads in design usually come off as less intimidating compared to characters with a smaller head. Smaller heads make the limbs and the other parts of the body appear bigger, therefore typically more intimidating. Babies also have a larger head-to-body ratio, and typically babies aren't that intimidating. These changes were likely made at either Bastion's own request, or the Lindholms wanted to give him a more friendly appearance to better relate to his personality and to further distance himself from the weapon of war that he used to be. We can also take into account some of the animations and posture of Bastion. Bastion moves in an artificial and really clunky way. He moves without really any grace to him compared to the other two Omnics in this video. He takes up an odd amount of space for someone so weak. His body and movement demonstrate that he likely has an immobile playstyle and that he doesn't have any sort of movement abilities. Your eyes would probably pop out of your head if he started crawling up a wall like Hanzo. He looks the most comfortable when he's stationary. All in all, Bastion's design comes off as a curious and cumbersome robot with the ability to reconfigure that was designed for a purpose that is contrary to how he values himself. This is made all the more evident with his redesign making him more friendly, approachable, and huggable. He basically has the personality of Wall-E stuck in the body of a dreadnought, and comes off with an idea and concept not all that dissimilar to the Iron Giant.
Hey, what's wrong?
Gun.
Yes, guns kill.
Guns kill.
Now we'll take a look at Zenyatta, our favorite Omnic monk.
You would leave Shambali? What if they do not accept your message?
To bring peace between Omnics and humans. That is a risk I am willing to take.
Starting with his color palette. His primary color is a pretty saturated yellow on his clothes that turns into gold on his body. His secondary color is a nice clean white that's ever so slightly cream colored, and his tertiary is a nice fully saturated red. He also has a reflective gray steel body, And he does have, like most of the cast, a bright blue on him that acts as an accent to his technology as well as to his own Omnic body. His color palette is supposed to be approachable, curious, and maybe associated with spirituality or angelic qualities or the medical field, with the larger use of white, red, and yellow, much like Mercy. The red on him might also link him back to passion, but not the rambunctious kind of passion, a quiet passion for life instead. Like he'd sit on a park bench so that he could listen to the birds sing and feel the breeze on his skin, if he had any skin. Buddhists also frequently wear yellow to orange colors, which is what his overall design is based off of.
And although his airbending skills are great, he has a lot to learn before he's ready to save anyone.
But the red on parts of him, especially on his arms, can associate those parts of him with danger. If Zenyatta lands his shots, he's basically just a damage hero. The scarf and the fabric around his upper half is actually a pretty desaturated and devalued yellow that comes off kind of like a sandstone color, or wet sand look. The rather bright color palette doesn't really associate him with anything brooding or evil. He's kind of close to a daisy with his colors. Within Overwatch, the design language has a couple of consistencies. Yellow is associated with things that heal the player, while purple is associated with debuffs or poison. Since his palette is mostly yellow, it associates him with the good of the support role, and contrasts nicely to purple, which his Orbs of Discord have. Also, Ram is mostly purple, but we'll get to him in a bit. His color palette is supposed to tell you that he is an approachable, friendly, and passionate character associated with the support role within the game, and that he has the capability of inflicting a decent amount of harm compared to others in his role. Then we can look at his shape language and the physical aspects of his design. To start, he's about 5'8" if he were to stand normally. This smaller stature within Overwatch's design would mean he's a less defensively oriented damage hero or support character. The vast majority of his design is based off of circles. The bands around his upper arms are even circular, and obviously, he has the circle of spheres orbiting around his head. The item hanging from his belt is a circle with 4 circular shapes within it. His pants, because of the constant bend at his knee, form a very curved and soft edge from the silhouette. His pants even have a softer and flowing pattern within the yellow portion. His feet are rather smooth and soft looking too compared to the other 2 Omnics in this video. His head from the side profile has many circles within it as well, but he does have occasional triangles within his design, found in the edges of his pants, the patterns on his front cloth, the patterns on his rear cloth, and the side profile of his chin. The white parts of his pants have diamond patterns within them that can contribute more triangles to his design if angled correctly. The asymmetrical sleeve shoulder fabric on his attire is also supposed to link him back to traditional Buddhist monk attire, which I have been mentioning a lot. I did some basic research. Correct me if I'm wrong, I also don't know how to say it, but the fabric on his upper half may be trying to represent Akasaya, which is worn by ordained Buddhist monks. His old skin actually had a wooden talisman on the rear of his rope that's around his waist. When he uses his ultimate, he gains 4 extra arms per side. Zenyatta is not actually Buddhist, but he takes many elements from the religion in his design. His role is actually just an Omnic monk that came from the Shambali monastery within Overwatch. The pattern in the fabric on his rear, to me at least, resembles cobblestone, like a design you could find covering the floor of a temple. Then we can take a quick look at his face. His eyes are actually downturned, which makes him the only character within Overwatch's current cast that has that feature. The dots on his forehead make a square shape, then the gold on his chin jaw thing either give him a resting frown, or they make him have a little mustache. But it's likely meant to make him look like he has a frown or it's part of his jaw. But this jaw shape on his head gives him a more astute look that Sigma also kind of gives off. The way he moves too is also very flowy. It's almost ritualistic. It's like he's moving through water a bit. That mixed with his Buddhist-inspired attire would lead you to believe his moveset and playstyle would be far more spiritual and less technological based like other support characters. It's really not that far of a stretch to imagine him either blessing or cursing someone with his abilities. All in all, Zenyatta is meant to convey a comforting and not outwardly intimidating design that elicits many ideas of youth and comfort with hints of the medical field because of his soft edges and yellow colors, which also link him back to healing within the game. He also has a sparse amount of red with occasional triangles to convey that although his main role is a non-defensive oriented support, he can dish out some damage if need be.
Have you reconsidered joining me?
I still have much to learn here.
I had hoped we could continue our journey together. We will meet again, Zenyatta.
Now we can take a look at my favorite character in Overwatch.
How many more Omnics should perish to fuel mankind's dreams? No more. Our race is only a single generation. Finite. And dying all too quickly.
We'll look at him in two sections, the first being his Omnic form, then his Nemesis form. His primary color is black, that crosses over into a dark and desaturated brown sometimes. His secondary is a nice, vibrant purple, and his tertiary has some pale gold trim. His highlight color is actually red. It's found in some of his technology as well as some of the wiring on him. His body and frame contribute to his palette too, going from black to white, from the periphery of his limbs all the way to his face. His color palette immediately draws your attention to his face, which is normal, and to his staff, meaning in his Omnic form, his staff is one of the focuses of his kit. The purple in his palette is associated with debuffs and corruption within Overwatch. The purple acts as an opposite to the gold in his scheme, but the very saturated purple is also complementary to Zenyatta's very saturated yellow. When Ramattra was a monk, his jaw was actually gold like Zenyatta's too. The yellow is also linked back to the iris, which is found from the monks in the Shambhala Monastery. Since it's an opposite color, we could assume that his mindset has done a full reversal compared to what he was taught with the monks.
I only hope you will remember what you've been taught, and that you continue to strive for harmony with the humanity that surrounds us.
Just like how Zenyatta's Discord Orb curses players, you could assume that the larger focus of purple on Ramattra means part of his kit could curse you too. It almost comes off as necrotic. Ravenous Vortex is a cursed spot on the ground. It pulls you in and it debuffs you. Annihilation, his ultimate, leeches off of all enemies around him like a Dementor from Harry Potter.
This is not cruelty. This is justice.
His Omnic form conveys a corrupt and evil character, but not for the sake of evil. And the gold gives him a sense of royalty or authority, since he leads Null Sector, like how Doomfist led Talon, I guess.
Predictable.
And how Ashe leads the Deadlock Gang. Ramattra's also somewhat large in stature. He's somewhere between 6'4" and 6'6", I believe. So he carries himself with a good amount of authority, but he's also kind of big. He's like a boss that's large. You could call him like a big boss. But compared to Zenyatta, who's mostly gray, Ramattra has the full gradient of black to white, but the white is only found in his face and the black on his hands and feet. Maybe I'm reaching, but what this may be trying to convey is that he has a really sound mind. Like he's not losing it or he's not insane, but he's not afraid to carry out horrible physical acts himself. He's not a really frail royal person, right? He's not going, guards, take him away. He'll kill you himself, and he knows the repercussions and he's thought this through.
I hear you like to prey on Omnics. Try me.
No thanks. Fought a bunch of you before. You're a bit gimmicky. No offense.
Gimmicky.
I said no offense.
His mind is completely sound, that's what I'm trying to get at with the focus of white on his head. Now we can take a look at his shape language and the physicality of his Omnic form. On the whole, his design has quite a lot more triangles compared to the other two Omnics in this video. We'll first look at his face for a bit. To me, his face almost looks like a razor-bill bird, which is a really cool looking bird. Because of the cables he has at the back of his head that mimic hair, his head kind of looks like a cobra with its head pointed down and its mouth open with its fangs out. You really have to fudge some of the details to see it though. His face has extremely downturned and aggressive looking eyes. The eyes also have a little slit going down from the center of them. This serves to do a couple of things. One, it adds another triangle to his face, but they could also double as tears falling down his face, which is always a really cool design for robots and stuff. His mouth also mimics a mandible, but the emphasis of his mandible is on the gap between the jaw and the cheekbone. The chin of his jaw is far smaller than Zenyatta's relative to the size of their heads, so there's little to no emphasis there compared to the upturn on his jaw, so his face is stuck in a sadistic grin. Or like I mentioned in one of my other videos, his face is basically a long-snouted predatory animal, flattened from the front like Venom. His forehead has a couple of different triangles within it, looking at the arrangement of lights up there. His staff is a circle with sharp claw things at the end. Those pointy shapes, mixed with the colors, draw your attention to that spot on his staff even more. The triangles also help to point out the gap of the staff, directing energy out of it. It's like how boost pads have arrows on it that typically point you in the direction they shoot you. You could imagine something is maybe being pointed out of the staff. His feet even have that similar claw shape to them. He looks like if he kicked you, it wouldn't just be blunt force trauma, but rather his feet would actually pierce into you. His cape and his hood are angular and triangular with the designs on them. Same with the parts of his shoulder pads. His torso design is meant to look like an artificial skeleton. Before his ribs reach the sternum, they kind of form more triangular points too. But when he's in his Omnic form, he does have quite a bit of cloth on him, which adds some minor organic shapes to him. But his Omnic form doesn't appear tank-like compared to the other heroes in this role. He isn't as stocky, he isn't as bulky, and he doesn't really look scrappy either. He looks like a wizard. When combined with the other aspects of his design, like the colors and skeletal aspects, he looks like a necromancer or a summoner of sorts. One of his highlight intros literally has him summoning the dead. His playstyle also has him summon a shield from the ground, but based on this form's design, it looks like he would summon a bunch of skeletal minions to help do his job. That begs the question, if he's a tank, why doesn't he look like a tank? Maybe the wizard aspects of his design play into his abilities and roles as a tank. Maybe he could call upon another form of sorts for his body to occupy, or he could mutate himself.
I will break before I yield.
Then we can look at the color palette of his Nemesis form, which is slightly different. The palette is mostly the same, but the overall black to white gradient is replaced. It's now a gradient from dark brown to beige. The overall palette has become brighter and more saturated, associating it with more energy and physicality. Like this form can run around, slam the ground. In short, his Omnic form feels more subdued and calm compared to his Nemesis form. The brown starts to make some of his chassis look more flesh-like, which we'll get into later, and browner shades are associated with many forms of leather. Leather is a material and kind of a color that's quite practical, and it's really good at getting stuff done. The bright purple in his palette shifts the focus from his staff to his forearms, ending right before his hands. So your eyes are drawn to his face, like his other form, but the contrast around his wrists makes your eyes dart to his hands. The difference between these two palettes is that his Omnic form conveys a very calm, corrupt, and evil person that likely isn't associated with mobility, but is very much aware of what he's doing, while his Nemesis form is the shape he takes when he needs a more physically capable approach, and it has more mobility and energy associated with it. On the whole, the shape language and physicality of his Nemesis form come off as far more organic, and it takes inspiration from muscles rather than a skeleton. The inside of his legs have parts of human musculature within them. He almost has what look like calves too, and he also basically has triceps and really big bulging forearms. But his design almost has a grotesque amount of muscle mass, like it looks like Bane from Batman, or people altered by Shimmer within Arcane. Even the purple in his forearms look like corrupted veins. They also somewhat mimic designs in monk tapestries or stained glass designs, or more designs found in temples too. This form also removes his cape, and the fabric is now moved to a loincloth position, completely altering his silhouette. The claw portion of his staff is now actually found on his shoulder thingies, which puts that emphasis back to his upper body. Although his lower body is huge, it's not the focus, meaning his abilities would be assumed to involve more upper half qualities, such as grabbing, punching, throwing, slamming, and blocking. Imagine if he had more of those vein shapes on his leg instead. Then you might be more inclined to think he has like a leap ability or he has a run forward ability, but he doesn't have those veins there, therefore you don't assume that. His hands also have only 4 phalanges on them instead of the usual 5, but they also seem to be reinforced, like they have brass knuckles. A funny little thing about Nemesis form is that you can still see his original feet in the design. You can also see pistons on part of his design that look like they help to absorb his weight when he walks around, as well as they help deliver more impactful blows with his fists. It looks like he got into a really big suit with a pair of backpack arms. It's like some Generator Rex shit. Nemesis form also introduces a bunch of panels on him that are triangular squares, which invoke danger and physical resilience. This is a form to be feared for its raw, mutated, and almost corruption-based power. But he also folds his normal arms in this form, which conveys a composed but possibly displeased demeanor. The cables on his head that act as hair are also now flowing, like a Super Saiyan. His body language also has a lot of flow like Zenyatta's, which links him back to a more spiritual or mystical playstyle, but he also has very composed and sharp movements to him. He moves almost like a viper. He's not as passive in personality as Zenyatta. There's a very capable anger in him. He's not to be immediately feared, as he likely won't hate you for no reason, but if you piss him off, you better kill him or start running. All in all, Ramatra is supposed to convey a composed and corrupted summoner in his Omnic form that's associated with leadership and a commanding presence, while his Nemesis form brings a hulking size and formidable physicality that forgoes precision for relentless brute strength.
Do you remember when we sat up at night, counting stars?
Yes. We wondered how many other Omnics were doing the same.
Yes, well, I've learned that too few of them look up at all.
Now we're going to have a little quick section on the sound design of guys. Within sound design, big, heavy, intimidating, and commanding creatures and characters have deep and bassy sounds associated with them. Meek, weak, innocent, and non-confrontational characters are given high-pitched voices.
Coronation, Starscream! This is bad comedy!
Megatron! Decepticons! I am your true leader now, and I order you to attack Megatron!
Throughout nature, we see this pattern all the time. It's like comparing a bear or a whale to a kitten or a grasshopper. Voice actors will actually be typecast based on the quality of their voices because of this.
I'm the light, I'm the hope, a hero rising, a savior from the storm.
I'm the night, I'm the darkness, and I will kill you for a chance to be reborn! No.
When it comes to sound design within Overwatch, Bastion's body and the sounds it makes are low and really heavy. His voice is also high-pitched and innocent sounding. It adds to the contrast of his character that he has. I also really like the sound of his turret rotating into him as he transforms. It's a really solid sound. Ramatra, though, has a deep, commanding voice all the time.
Put them in the ground.
His Omnic form has like medium-weighted footsteps with a bit of a metallic accent to them. They don't sound all that intimidating right from the get-go. But his Nemesis form has big, heavy footsteps. This auditory component can help you identify which state he's in by footsteps alone.
Your miscalculations will cost you everything.
Zenyatta, though, is almost entirely associated with high-pitched sounds. He sounds very much like the wind, or chimes, or, chimes in the wind. Now we're going to go over some little fun facts about these guys. Zenyatta and Ramatra are actually supposed to be like brothers in the fact that they're supposed to be the opposites to each other. Zenyatta has red cables on his design with a single black one to accent them, while Ramatra has black cables with a single red wire. As well as that their ultimates are kind of opposites to each other too. Zenyatta's is an AoE around him, that's a big yellow circle that tells all of his teammates to come close to him, while Ramatra's is a big purple circle that tells all of his enemies to get away from him. Ramatra was actually originally created from a scrapped enemy type for the Uprising missions back in Overwatch 1, and he was actually originally teased back in like 2018, 2019. Originally, he was based off of a Pharaoh summoner character. He was always associated with Egyptian designs and necrotic or undead ideas. Think of a mummy, for example. Bastion actually got a height reduction as a balance change to make him harder to hit a while back. He shrunk about 4 to 6 inches, I think. Another neat idea is that I know in lots of animation and character design, people talk about how is that humans are drawn to the face and there's a huge focus on properly conveying facial expressions. Actually, most of our emotional interpretation is from body language and tone of voice. The face is more like a modifier, it's the cherry on top. What emotion you glean from an isolated expression depends on the context of the body, which is why the Omnics can convey so much personality without any facial animation. Bastion is actually the hardest character for the modeling, rigging, and animation teams to deal with because he transforms. His body actually has to work properly and make sense. They can't really fib stuff that he does, like with Ramatra. He also falls apart when he dies too, so they have to keep that into account too. All 3 of these characters have a couple of Omnic symbols on them. I think they can be translated. I do believe Blizzard actually has a language for these symbols, but I haven't done the research on that. And if Overwatch ever does a collab with Evangelion, which is possible, it's not a non-zero chance because they are collabing with Nier. If Ram doesn't get an EVA Unit 1 skin, I riot. All they really need to do is make him purple and glue an ice cream cone to his head, and you're like 90% of the way there. And then when he pops his ult, he could do the little roar that EVA Unit 1 does. Like, come on, it's like right there. It's like right there. And their faces are almost identical too. Like, he's built for it, bro. He's built for it. Also, if there's another type of collab, I think Ramatra could definitely pull this skin off. I have a vision. Do you see the vision? I have the vision. Anyway, I'm sure some of you really like Transformers. Don't worry, I'm one of you too. You guys got a favorite one? Mine's Soundwave. He's my favorite. Let me know who's your favorite. Within the future of this series, I have a couple of video grouping ideas. So one video would be Zarya and Mauga, another would be Reaper, Vendetta, and then Revenant and Loba from Apex Legends all in one video. Then another would be Tracer, Sombra, and Sigma within one video. Then one would be Roadhog, Junkrat, and Junker Queen. Another would be Ashe and Doomfist. Another would be Hanzo, Genji, and Mercy. Another would be Juno and Winston. Another would be Hazard and Moira. And then I know some people have asked if I'll cover fighting games. I doubt I'll largely cover fighting games because I don't really play them all that much. Who knows, I may take 1 to 2 designs from them. I only own like one fighting game and I hardly play it. And with that, that's the end of this video. Take care.